He wouldn't wear something like this. I'm an equal opportunity offender. He's too kind-hearted. Okay, guys, let's have a quick prayer. We're going to jump right in it. Dear Lord and most precious Heavenly Father, God, Lord, we thank you for this day, for your opportunities, Lord, to come here and worship you in the spirit and in truth, Lord, and to learn a little bit more about you and try to hide your word in our heart like you tell us to do it, Lord, and we'd like to apply it to our lives and go out and spread your word, your truth, your gospel, Lord, and try to be seekers of souls, Lord, and we just want to learn more about you and be more servant to you. Lord, we ask these things in the holy and precious name of Jesus. Amen. Well, we had talked about maybe going to Elisha, and I know Brandon. Where is Brandon? I know he was anxious to get to Elisha, but I don't think I can do Elisha in a day. And Tony Macaroni is going to be picking up here in a week, and he's going to be doing 3 weeks, and then I think Randy's got some other things going on. So there is something that I think we can go through today, and it was the other last component that I had for highlights of the Old Testament. That'd be a man named Samson. And so I find a lot of humor in these texts. I don't know if anybody else has read them and find humor there, but we're going to try to explore some of that today. Talking about Samson as the same way that God created a great fish to swallow Jonah, God created Samson from the womb. It's an interesting thing. And so we're going to see some of the things that Samson did. We're talking about the strongest man to ever have lived. And it's not even close. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the World's Strongest Men competitions. Any of you guys ever seen that? Those cats are strong. Yeah, that's right. Magnus Magnuson. Yeah, he was a 2-time or 3-time champion. These guys are no joke. And they pick up cars. They carry 250-pound anvils in each hand. The last thing they have to do is the Atlas stones. And the light ones start off at 250 or 60 pounds, and they go incrementally 5 stones up to 400 plus pounds apiece. And they pick them up and load them up there. And the guys that win can do it in a minute, or certainly less than 2 minutes. Outrageous. That is just unbelievably strong. Samson is not on that level. Samson would be, if you would imagine, the strength of an elephant. Now you're talking Samson stuff. So maybe more. He could beat any of those cats with his breath. So we're talking about the strongest cat to ever have lived, and that kind of power can corrupt you. It can lull you into a false sense of security. I know if if you could beat down every dude you ever saw into a pumice without even taking a breath, and you could beat him and his whole family down into the ground, into a pumice, with no trouble at all. In fact, beat him down and his nation's army into the ground, into a pumice, that'd have a tendency to corrupt you a little bit. You'd probably get a little full of yourself. And I look at Samson as lost potential. But let's have a look at Samson. We're going to go to Judges 13, which is really only about 4 chapters about Samson, but we're going to explore them. So we're going to go to Judges 13, and this is the time of the judges. Apostate Israel has abandoned God, and of course we've talked about it before, and he brought their enemies in against them, and then he would deliver them through the judges over the course of hundreds of years, and that's the way it would go back and forth. And Samson was one of the judges of Israel. Chapter 13, and the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord delivered them into the hand of the Philistines 40 years. So they've been oppressed by the Philistines. They're ruling over Israel. And there was a certain man, Zorah, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah. And his wife was barren and bare not. Now that's an ongoing theme when God's got a special plan, don't we? We've seen all that, right? Abraham and Sarai. And it goes on throughout. They have a wife that is barren. Then they are delivered through prayer, and God has a special plan. This is the same thing. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto the woman and said unto her, Behold, now thou art barren, and bearest not, but thou shalt conceive and bear a son. Okay, so this is the angel of the Lord. This is actually a theophany. 3 times through Daniel. This is the pre-incarnate Christ. This is Christ himself coming there. And 3 times in the book of Judges, 6, 11, 18, and here also, and 2, 1 through 5. Jesus Christ comes in theophany, in pre-incarnate Christ, to do his work here on earth. And now therefore beware, I pray thee, and drink not wine nor strong drink, and eat not any unclean thing. For lo, thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come upon his head. For the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb, and he began to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. It's an interesting thing there, Nazarite. Let's go to Numbers, find out what a Nazarite is. Chapter 6. And the Lord spake unto Moses, these are the Levitical laws of Moses in regard to the Nazarite pledge, okay? And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, Neither man nor woman shall separate themselves, when either man or woman shall separate themselves to vow over the Nazarite, to separate themselves unto the Lord. He shall separate himself from wine and strong drink, and shall drink no vinegar of wine, or vinegar or of strong drink, neither shall he drink any liquor of grapes, nor eat moist grapes or raisins, all the days of his separation. Nothing that is made of the vine, the grapevine, from the kernels even to the husk, so from the seeds all the way to the outer shell. Not only can he not drink strong drink, but he can't even eat whether grapes, raisins, or anything. It's kind of a weird thing, really, because that's food. But for this is what the restrictions are. All the days of the vow of his separation, there should be no razor come upon his head until the days be fulfilled in which he separated himself unto the Lord. He shall be holy, and shall let the locks of his head grow. So he can't cut his hair, he or she. All the days that the separated himself unto the Lord, he shall come at no dead body. He can't touch a dead body. He should not make himself unclean for his father, for his mother, for his brother, for his sister when they die. So if anybody in his family die, he can't touch them, because the consecration of God is upon his head. And all the days of his separation he is holy unto the Lord. If any man die very suddenly by him, so if he happens to touch a dead body by whatever reason, he hath defiled the head of his consecration. Then he shall shave his head on the day of his cleansing. On the 7th day shall he shave it. So you've got to wait 7 days. He shall shave it. And on the 8th day he shall bring 2 turtles and 2 young pigeons to the priest of the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall offer the one for a sin offering, the other for a burnt offering, to make an atonement for him. For that he sinned by the dead, and shall hallow his head the same day. So he's going to reconsecrate this head after he shaves it. And he shall consecrate unto the Lord the days of his separation. He's going to start all over. Okay, they shall bring a lamb of the first year of the trespass offering, but the days that were before shall be lost, because his separation was defiled. So he's going to start all over again with his consecration with a bald head. And this is the law of the Nazarite. When the days of his separation are fulfilled, he shall be brought unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, shall offer his offering unto the Lord, 1 lamb the first year without blemish for a burnt offering, and 1 ewe lamb for the first year without blemish for a sin offering, and 1 ram without blemish for peace offerings, and a basket of unleavened bread, cakes of fine flour, mingled with oil, wafers of unleavened bread, anointed with oil, and other meat offerings, and their drink offerings. And the priest shall bring them before the Lord, and shall offer his sin offering and his burnt offering. He shall offer the ram for a sacrifice of peace offerings unto the Lord, with a basket of unleavened bread. Get this turned. The priest shall offer this also meat offering and his drink offering, and the Nazarite shall shave the head of his separation at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. So he's basically going to go to the church and shave his head there. And shall take the hair of the head of his separation and put it in the fire which is under the sacrifice of peace offering. So his hair that's been grown in the time of this separation, he's going to add it to what they're burning the burnt offerings with. And the priest shall take the sodden shoulder of the ram and 1 unleavened cake out of the basket and 1 unleavened wafer, and shall put them upon the hands of the Nazarite after the hair of his separation is shaven, and the priest shall wave them for the wave offering before the Lord. This is holy for the priest, which the waved breast and the heaved shoulder, and after the Nazarite may drink wine. This is the law of the Nazarite who hath vowed and is offering unto the Lord for his separation. Besides that his hand shall get, besides that his hand shall get, according to the vow which he vowed, so he must do after the law of the separation. Okay, so you see here, when the hair is shaved, That's the signal that your time of separation is over. So that's one of the things that happens. Your time of separation is over. Shave your head. That hair is holy. So let's go see what we have here. 13:6. Then the woman came to her and told her husband, a man of God came unto me, and his countenance was like the countenance of an angel of God, very terrible. But I asked him not whence he was, neither told he me his name. And he said unto me, behold, thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and now drink no wine or strong drink, neither eat any unclean thing, for the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb to the day of his death. Interesting. Then Manoah entreated the Lord and said, O my Lord, let the man of God which thou didst send come again to us, and teach us what we shall do unto the child that shall be born. And God hearkened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman and sat in the field. But Manoah, her husband, was not with her. The woman made haste and ran and showed her husband and said unto him, behold, the man hath appeared unto me. And it came unto me the other day. And Manoah arose and went after his wife, came to the man and said unto him, art thou the man that spakest unto the woman? He said, I am. And Manoah said, now let thy words come to pass. Shall we order the child, and how shall we do unto him? And the angel of the Lord said unto Manoah, of all that I said unto the woman, let her beware. She may not eat of anything that cometh of the vine, neither let her drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. All that I commanded her, let her observe. And Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, I pray thee, let us detain thee until we shall have made ready a kid for thee. And the angel of the Lord said unto Manoah, though thou detain me, I'll not eat of thy bread. If thou wilt offer a burnt offering, thou must offer it unto the Lord. For Manoah knew not that he was the angel of the Lord. And Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, what is thy name, that thou sayest, come to pass, we may do thee honor? And the angel of the Lord said, and why askest thou thus after my name, seeing it is secret? And Manoah took a kid and went with meat offering and offered it upon a rock to the Lord. And the angel did wondrously. And Manoah and his wife looked on, for it came to pass when the flame went up toward the heaven, from off the altar, that the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar. He went right into the fire and disappeared. Manoah and his wife looked on, and it fell on their faces to the ground. That's an ongoing theme in the Bible too. Whenever you see God, you fall on your face on the ground. No noogies involved. But the angel of the Lord did no more appear to Manoah and his wife. Then Manoah knew that he was an angel of the Lord. And Manoah said unto his wife, we shall surely die because we've seen God. But his wife said unto him, if the Lord be pleased to kill us, he would not have received a burnt offering of meat and offerings from our hand. Neither would he have shown us all these things, nor would he at this time have told us such things as these. And the woman bare a son and called his name Samson, and the child grew. And the Lord blessed him, and the Spirit of the Lord began to move him at times in the camp of Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. 14. And Samson went down to Timnath, and saw a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. And he came up and told his father and his mother, and said, I have seen a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore get her for me to wife. Then his father and his mother said to him, is there never a young woman among the daughters of thy brethren, or among all thy people, that thou goest and take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines? This was Samson's big problem. He was terrible at picking women. And he chose a Gentile. And it's supposed to be married within the family of the Hebrews. That was the tradition. There were 7 nations of the Canaanites that were specifically forbidden to marry to. This was not one of them, but still yet, that you can see this is displeasing to his family. You're picking these uncircumcised Philistines. Why are you doing this? And the Philistines are ruling over these guys at the time. Displeasing. And Samson said unto his father, get her for me, for she pleases me well. She looks good to me, is basically what I'd say. She's a fox. She's a fox, Dad, and that's what I'm wanting. I want the fox over there, get me the Philistine. But his father and his mother knew not that it was of the Lord that he sought an occasion against the Philistines, for at the time the Philistines had dominion over Israel. Then went Samson down, and his father and his mother, to Timnath, and came to the vineyards of Timnath, and behold, a young lion roared against him. Okay, this is a lion in his full strength. How many of you guys would like to wrestle a lion? You gonna hit him with that cane, preacher? I would not want to wrestle a lion. The Spirit of the Lord came on him mightily, and he rent him as he would have rent a kid, that's a baby goat. Okay, and he had nothing in his hand, but he told not his father, his mother, what he had done. So he just took the lion and went like this. You could imagine he probably just grabbed it by his jaws. The lion's going to come at you with his jaws and just probably separated the bottom jaw from the top jaw and left the bottom jaw over there. That'd be the end of the fight. But he just whooped the lion just like that. And he went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. And after the time he returned to take her, he returned aside to see the carcass of the lion. And behold, there was a swarm of bees and honey in the carcass of the lion. Now, we don't know how long it was down there, but this seems pretty miraculous right here, right? It takes a while to make honey, bee swarms. They're working on it all the time. And he took the oven in his hands and he went on eating. There's a question as to whether, because he scraped this out of the lion, the carcass, as he defiled himself in touching the dead body. But anyway, the Lord was gracious here. Went on eating and came to his father and his mother, and he gave them, they did eat. But he told them not that he had taken the honey out of the carcass of the lion. So his father went down unto the woman, and Samson made there a feast, for so used the young men to do. So the wedding feast usually lasts a week, 7 days. It could be give or take, but that's the general rule. And it came to pass when they saw him that they brought 30 champions to be with him. And Samson said unto them, I will now put forth a riddle unto you. If you can certainly declare it unto me within the 7 days of the feast, and find it out, then I'll give you 30 sheets and 30 changes of garments. If you cannot declare it me, then you should give me 30 sheets and 30 changes of garments. And they said unto him, put forth thy riddle. We'll take that bet. That sounds good, that we may hear it. And he said unto them, out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. And they could not in 3 days expound the riddle. And it came to pass on the 7th day that they said unto Samson's wife, entice us, thy husband, that he may declare unto us the riddle. Lest we burn thee and thy father's house with fire. Now, okay, you can say she has some good motivation here. That's the fact. That's for sure. She's motivated, but she could have told Samson, right? She could have put faith in the God of Israel. She could have told Samson and said, well, just tell me which ones they are. He could have gone over to them and took the first one and rent his head like he rent a kid and put it in front of the rest of them and say, you said you were going to burn her house and her family. This dead guy is what you're going to all be if you even come close to her house and family. But she didn't do that. She's got a tough decision to make, so she makes the wrong one. He's chosen the wrong woman. Let's see. And it came to pass, declared this riddle to the fire. Have you called us to take that we have? Is it not so? So they made this bet. Now they're blaming her because they can't figure out the riddle. And Samson's wife wept before him and said, thou dost hate me and lovest me not. We know that one. We've heard that one before, right? Thou hast put forth the riddle into the children of my people and hast not told it me. And he said unto her, behold, I have not told it my father nor my mother, and shall I tell it thee? And she wept before him the 7 days. So she's got her face hung out 7 days now. She's got a motivation. You got to understand. Got her face hung out. And wives have a special way to motivate husbands to know what they want. Any married men here? My father gave me a piece of advice a long time ago. And he said, son, when you're married, sometimes you go along with things you don't always agree with. And I thought, yeah, I reckon that's wise words, an old man to a younger man. And so they have a special way to let you know what their plans are for you. And if you're a happy wife, happy life, and you do what it's a compromise. Marriage is a compromise, right? And you usually get around to getting, if your wife's got a special thing she wants you to build, you usually get around to building it. And if it's the wrong color, check this. If you paint the kitchen the color she likes, according to the swatch, and when you're 3 walls in on the final coat, and this question comes out, is that the color I chose? What you do is you stop.
Who are you talking about?
And then you go, and the next day you go get other paint that she thinks she likes from the swatch. And you ask her after the first wall's done. And then 3 or 4 years later, that color is not what she likes as much as this other color because you bought some new furniture that doesn't go with. So then you get your stuff out again. So your wife has a way to compel you, but wives are wonderful things. And when you found a wife, Scripture says, a man who's found a wife has found a good thing. It's not always bliss, but it's a give and take. Men, am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong. Yeah, brown nose. And she wept. You do. That's exactly right. We all do.
You are saying all this about your wife.
Hey, that's her fault. She can attest that it's all true, and it's not the first time I've told that story. And she wept before him 7 days while the feast lasted, and it came to pass on the 7th day that he told her, because she lay sore upon him, and he told her the riddle, and she told the riddle to the children of her people. And the men of the city said unto him on the 7th day before the sun went down, what is sweeter than honey? And what is stronger than a lion? And he said unto them, if ye had not plowed with my heifer, ye had not found out my riddles. The jig is up. He knows when he's been played. It's like, oh, man. Oh, geez. What's he going to do? He's ticked. Now, this guy's mad now. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he went down to Ashkelon and slew 30 men of them. I love this stuff, man. I shouldn't laugh at this, but I love it. Okay, all right. Yeah, I should not have told my wife. That's on me. She shouldn't have told you. That's on her. I'm mad. But guess what? I'm going to go get you your stuff. And I'm going to take it from your dead dudes. I'm going to go wring their necks like a kid, take their clothes, and here you go. Stinky, sweated in, dirty, there you go. I'm not bringing nothing new. I'm just bringing you off this corpse. And then you guys can go bury them all. So he goes down and kills 30 of them, took their spoil, gave the chains as garments to them, which expounded the riddle. And his anger was kindled. He's mad, and he went up to his father's house. But Samson's wife was given to his companion, whom he had used as his friend. So this is awful. This is an act of treachery. So he's ticked. He leaves, goes back to his mom and dad's house, leaves his wife there in his father's house. Father then marries her to another guy. Oh, this is great, And he's staying away long enough to get his anger assuaged. He's calming down. Killed a few guys. He's calming down, his anger is assuaged. He's going to bring her a goat, a peace offering. But it came to pass when in a while, in the time of the wheat harvest, that Samson visited his wife with a kid. That's not a child, that's a goat. And he said, I will go in unto my wife into the chamber. But her father would not suffer him to go in. And her father said, I verily thought that thou hast utterly hated her. Therefore I gave her to thy companion. Is not her younger sister fairer than she? Take her, I pray thee, instead of her. Yeah, we've heard that story before too, haven't we? You know what I mean? Well, it's our custom that we marry the elder before the younger. There you go. Serve me 7 more years. Yeah, it's a funny thing there. And Samson said concerning them, now shall I be more blameless than the Philistines, though I do them a displeasure. And Samson went and caught 300 foxes. Stop there. He went and caught 300 foxes. So he went down to a Tractor Supply and got some fox cages, right? Yeah. You know how tough it is to catch a fox? It's tough to catch a glimpse of a fox. And we're a modern society with houses and roads and everything everywhere. And occasionally at 4 o'clock in the morning on the way to work, dreading it, thinking you wish that you just didn't have to go to work at 4 o'clock in the morning, you might catch a fox and you go, wow, man, that's a fox. Check that out. Those dudes are sly, nimble. They are excellent at hiding. They're excellent hunters. Catching one fox is a job. So he had to create these traps. This guy has a very well-developed sense of vengeance. That's right. That's right. With the whole intent with his birth is that God's going to use him as a tool to smite the Philistines, the guys that are ruling over Israel at the time. So he has to go catch these foxes. Now, you don't catch 300 foxes overnight. He's got this plan in his head. He goes, I know just what I'm going to do. It's time of the harvest, right? That's what it said. He catches 300 foxes. We don't know how long it took him, but we know he did it by his own means. He made these traps, catches these foxes. He has to keep them somewhere while he's catching more. He has to feed them, right? Has care for these foxes, man. Anybody have 300 dogs? Can you imagine that? And these are wild animals. So he has to go through all this trouble and all this time, man. He said, I'm going to fix these guys. Oh, I'm going to fix you guys. I'm going to fix you good. And took firebrands and turned the tail to tail and put a firebrand in the midst between the two tails. Now, the preacher and I was talking about this earlier. Foxes do not let you tie them together. Okay? You ever heard the old saying, somebody's all beat up or something, they get out of a car crash or after a football game or something, and they're all skinned up and beat up, and then you say, you look like you've been sorting wildcats. That's what if you're going to try to tie a fox together, you get out you're going to bring your lunch. He has to tie these foxes together and tie a firebrand, a slow-burning torch to their tails. So he's 150 pairs, and he cuts them cats loose and runs them out into the Philistines' dry fields. And he burns them dudes out, man. They're sitting there, they're looking at the harvest. They go, man, the corn, look at the wheat, look at the soybeans. It's going to be good. We're going to just ready to harvest. And he cuts them foxes loose, and he burns that place to the ground, man. You know he's sitting up on that hill after he let his 150th pair go. And he's going, look at this, man. He set the fire. Every field out there he burnt to the ground. Yeah, he talked about Philistines ticked, man. These dudes are ticked now. It's like, oh, man. He let them go into the standing corn of the Philistines and burn up both the shocks and also the standing corn and the vineyards and olives. He burned it all, man. Oh, it's hilarious. That's not right, preacher. I should not be laughing at this, but I just can't help myself, man. Then the Philistine said, who done this? And they answered, Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he had taken his wife and given her a companion, and the Philistines came up and burned her and her father with fire. Well, she was doing that. She betrayed Samson to keep him getting burnt with fire. And winds up getting burnt with fire anyway. Okay? And this ticked Samson off too. And Samson said to them, though you've done this, yet will I be avenged of you. And after that I'll cease. So he says, I'm going to pound you into the ground, but I'll only go so far with it, and then I'll be assuaged. So you're in for something else. And he smote them hip and thigh with a great slaughter. Now it doesn't say how much. That is, he stomped a mud hole in them and walked it dry. But when he slaughtered them, they were dead. So he beat them down dead. Whoever it was around, anybody around, he slaughtered them. He'd rent them like he rents a kid. He was ticked, and he stomped the mud hole, and anybody that was around and whoever wasn't running was dying. So great slaughter. They figured they were going to do something about it, and all they were going to go do about it is go get smashed into the ground. Then the Philistines went up and pitched in Judah and spread themselves in Lehi. And the men of Judah said, why are you come up against us? And they answered, now I understand the Philistines are ruling over Israel. This is God's work. And they answered, to bind Samson are we come up to do him as he's done unto us. And then 3,000 men of Judah, now just so you know, 3,000 men wouldn't have been enough to bind Samson either. But these are men of Judah, they're his kinsmen. We're at the top of the rock Edom and said unto Samson, knowest thou not that the Philistines are rulers over us? What is this that thou hast done? You burnt their fields all up, now they're ticked. Now we're in it. He said unto them, as they did unto me, so have I done unto them, tit for tat. They should have thought about that before they burned my wife and my father-in-law up. Well, it wasn't his wife anymore, but you know the point. And they said unto him, we are come down to bind thee, that we may deliver thee the hand of the Philistines. And Samson said unto them, swear unto me that you will not fall upon me yourselves. Not that they could, but he's saying, don't kill me. and I'll go along peaceably. They spake unto him, saying, No, but we'll bind thee fast and deliver thee unto their hands, but surely we'll not kill thee. And they bound him with 2 new cords and brought him up from the rock. And when he had come to Lehi, the Philistines shouted against him, Yeah, all right, man, we're going to get this now. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him. And the cords were upon his arms became as flax that was burnt with fire, and his bands loosed from off his hands. So he snapped these ropes like paper mache. Of course he would. Be like putting a little piece of yarn on an elephant's leg. He snapped them off, and he found a new jawbone of an ass. He really didn't even need the jawbone. You see, he made a slaughter him over here. He didn't say he had anything in his hand. He could have taken any of their weapons away and he could have pulled an arm off of one and beat the rest of them to death with that arm. But he found a jawbone of an ass and put forth his hand and took it and slew 1,000 men with it. Now, it takes a minute to kill 1,000 dudes. They're got to come on to you. So this is a fight, him and an army. He kills every one of them, beats them down, kills them dead, stomps them into the ground. The only thing he has in his hands is a jawbone and ass. You know, they would have swords, staves, everything, and he'd just take them away, take this jawbone and ass, beat them down. And the only thing that happened to him is he just got thirsty. He just beat him to death. So it took him long enough to get thirsty. Came to pass, we made an end of speaking. And then he cast away the jawbone out of his hand. He called the place Ramoth Lehi. And he was sore athirst. And he called on the Lord and said, Thou hast given us this day given us this great deliverance unto the hand of thy servant, and now shall I die for thirst and fall into the hand of the uncircumcised? But God clave an hollow place that was in the jaw, and there came out water thereout, and when he had drunk, his spirit came again. So this is a miracle of God. So you know he's within the will of God in doing all this. And he revived, had something to drink. He revived, wherefore they called the name of thereof in Hakkeori, which is in Lehi unto this day. And he judged Israel the days of the Philistines 20 years. Okay, so now from this place, 20 years have passed now, from Judges 15 to 16. And here's where our lost potential is. We don't know anything of the exploits of Samson from that point. We don't know what he did, but he delivered Israel 20 years out of the hands of the Philistines. And here we go, Samson again, man. His weakness, he picked some really terrible women. And doesn't say he wasn't married, doesn't have any information there, didn't have any kids. Don't know what kind he, lived this life. He could have done so much differently, but he did not. Then went Samson to Gaza and saw there an harlot and went into her. So there you are, sexual sin, not doing what is right before God. And was told the Gazites, saying, Samson has come hither. And they compassed him in and laid wait for him all night in the gate of the city. Now, these guys aren't too smart either. They should have some historical record. And they say, what, who are we waiting for? Samson? You haven't heard? You didn't read the news? You didn't see the 6 o'clock report? Samson is bad. He killed 1,000 cats with the jawbone of an ass, and we're waiting for him. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'd like to want to help you, but I got to go that way somewhere. I'm not waiting for him. These guys are dumb. Then they said they were quiet all night, saying, in the morning, when it is day, we shall kill him. And Samson lay till midnight, and arose at midnight, and took the doors of the gate of the city and the 2 posts, and went away with them, bar and all. He put them upon his shoulders and carried them up to the top of an hill that is before Hebron. Okay, Gaza to Hebron. We're talking about 30 plus miles. This estimation is roughly 38 miles. Okay, the gates of the city. Let's consider the gates of the city. So back in those days, they had walled cities to keep marauders out, to keep armies out, to keep the people inside safe. These are big, huge gates mounted on posts designed to keep armies out. keeps cities safe, people safe. He come out and grabbed these gates, ripped the posts and all out of the ground, 2 of them. He threw one on one shoulder, he threw the other on the other shoulder, and trekked on to Hebron, 38 miles. 38 miles. Now check it, this is hilarious. Just think, this is funny. He could have ripped those gates off and thrown them down, right? And that'd be bad enough. Then the guys would come out there and go, oh man, and they'd have to get all the carpenters together, and they'd have to get together and repair all the stuff, put new posts in, hang them up. That's no mean feat. You don't go down into Menards and get your lumber. You don't wheel it back out on a trailer and say, okay, well, we got to get some 6x6 poles, and we got to get the nails, don't forget the screws, and then get star heads. No, none of that stuff. You got to go cut down a tree. Get your chainsaw. No chainsaw. It's work, 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 and everybody's got to join together to put the doors on. That's bad enough, right? They know, oh, it's work. The gates are gone. They're nowhere to be found, man. You can't rehang a gate that ain't there. He's carried them 38 miles. Everybody, every one of the Philistines knew that this happened. All the Hebrews knew that this happened. They go, the next day they'd go and look, or however long it took them to get there, and they, what is this? That's the gates of the city. It goes, aren't them the gates? What, who? Samson did that. Oh man. So now they've got to muster everybody together in the whole city, right? They've got to put guards in the front of the city because it's wide open to whomever they wanted to keep out. They got to go out, and they got to cut down trees, and they got to custom make these gates again and reset them. Who knows how long that took them to do it, and they were burning up. You know, they were thick, man. Going, that's Samson. Yeah, well, why don't you go do something about it? I ain't doing nothing about it. Just cut the tree. I'll just cut the tree. Yeah, you can gripe, but you tell him. You go tell him. I ain't telling him. But can you imagine that feat? You just read it right there, and it's fast. Hey, just picked the cities up, the gates up, put them on his shoulder, and took them to Hebron. That's far away, man. And it just ruined those guys' month. And everybody had to muster together. All the mighty men, all the men there, all the carpenters, everybody had to join together forces to rebuild gates and to put them up. You know that burnt those guys up. That is hilarious, man. Sense of humor. Samson had a great sense of humor, man. Came to pass afterwards that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. Uh-oh. Bad news. Everybody knows this one, Samson and Delilah. And the lords of the Philistines came up unto her. And he said unto her, entice him, and see wherein his great strength lieth. Does this sound familiar? Just happened to you, Samson. Just happened to you. Think about this. And by what means we may prevail against him, that we may bind him and afflict him, and we will give thee, every one of us, 1,100 pieces of silver. So there was five leaders of the Philistines. If each one of them gave them 1,100 pieces of silver, that is a tidy sum. 5,500 pieces of silver, that's a lot of jack. They said, hey man, we'll give you $1 million if you give us this information. Delilah said unto him, Samson, tell me, I pray thee, wherein thy great strength lieth, and wherewith thou mightest be bound to afflict thee. And Samson said unto her, well, if they bind me with 7 green withs that were never dried, then shall I be weak and be as another man. Then the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 green withs, which had not been dried, and she bound him with them. Now this is a heavy sleeper. It doesn't say it here, but it gives you the impression here. She's doing all this crap when he's asleep. Now the first thing is, you don't know if he's drinking or what's going on here, but that's a heavy sleeper. When my wife gets up or shuffles around or whatever, I wake up 2 or 3 times in the night to just go take a leak, and that's because I'm old. Doesn't happen when you're a young man, but yeah, you young men laugh. It will. Is that right, Charlie? Brandon, John, preacher. Preacher, man, he's 100%. Bob, John, yeah, we on, Randy. Anyway, it happens. But how do you sleep through being bound? Hey, your hands being bound. I don't get that, man. But we assume he's asleep again, and we find out later that he is asleep. And now there were men lying in wait. She's already got it set up, abiding with her in the chamber. She had said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson, and break the withs as a thread of tow broken when it touches the fire. So he just whoops them off and just snaps them like they're nothing there, so his strength was not known. Now, okay, now you got to start talking about how dumb is Samson. I'm sorry, you got to start thinking, how dumb are you? I mean, I know you love her. She's a fox. All that, it's all great. But I think in here, how dumb must you be? Are you that in love, man? This is treachery. He told her this was a lie, but she put it to the test. And it's like, if at that point right there, I'd have said, hey, you know what? That's why I told you the lie. Now, leave me alone. But he didn't. And Delilah said unto him, beholdest, thou hast mocked me, and told me lies. Now tell me, I pray thee, wherewith thou mightest be bound. Oh, let me try again. He said unto her, if they bind me fast with new ropes that never were occupied, then shall I be weak and be as another man. Delilah therefore took new ropes and bound him therewith, and said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And there were liars in wait, abiding in the chamber. And he brake them off his arms like a thread. He gets second time around. Oh, man, now you're going into weapons grade stupid now. This is bad, man. You're dumber than a dummy. If two rounds there and you haven't learned a lesson. Let's face it, guys. I mean, this is historical record. This actually happened. And you think, what is the matter with this guy? You know what I mean? She must have had some kind of hold on him that is inexplicable. And Delilah said to him, Samson, hitherto thou hast mocked me and told me lies. Tell me wherewith thou mightest be bound. Yeah, I told you lies because you're not trustworthy. I wish he'd have just said that. He could have been judge over Israel for so many more years and brought so much more victory to Israel, right? Yeah, this is why. You see why? That's why, but nah. He said to her, thou weavest 7 locks of my head with a web. He's getting close now. And she fastened it with a pin and said unto him, and she fastened it with a pin and said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he waked out of his sleep and went away with the pin of the beam and with the web. And she said unto him, how canst thou say that I love thee when thy heart is not with me? Thou mockest me with these 3 times. Yeah. What did he think he was going to do if he ever gave up the truth? What did he expect? Honestly, what could he possibly expected? When he finally tells her the truth, she's going to say, 'tis enough. You do love me after all. Let's go get some Kentucky Fried Chicken. What's the matter with this guy? Right? Can't believe this guy, man. Yeah. And thou told me wherein thou great strength lieth. And it came to pass, when she pressed him daily with her words and urged him, so that his soul was vexed unto death. I'm not going to say a word. We started off with that conversation when we first got her. His soul was vexed unto death. I guess he just figured he'd rather die than go through one more night of this. I think that would qualify under the heading of nagging. Perhaps. Might be overstepped in a little bit. She nagged him where he wanted to die, man. But still, it's nuts that he gave her the truth. Vexed unto death, that he told her all his heart and said unto her, there hath not come a razor upon mine head, for I've been a Nazarite unto God from my mother's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak, and like any other man. We read earlier what the Nazarite was, right? The end of his time of separation, he's to shave his head, right? And it's part of the burnt offering. It's part of the wood that they burn the offerings with. And he's getting ready to, he just gave up his manhood, gave up his relationship with God, gave up his sight, gave up his life. He gave all of it up. Though he didn't intend to, he gave it all up for this woman, this pleasure, this earthly pleasure. And when Delilah saw that he told her all his heart, she sent and called to the lords of the Philistines, saying, come up at this once, for he showed me all in his heart. Then the lords of the Philistines came up to her and brought money in their hand. They brought her $1 million. And she made him sleep upon her knees. So you assume that this is how she's done it all the while. And she called for a man and caused him to come up and shave the 7 locks of his head. And she began to afflict him, and his strength went from him. And she said, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he woke out of his sleep and said, I'll go out as other times before and shake myself. And he wist not, he didn't realize that the Lord was departed from him. That's an awful passage right there. It's awful when the Lord departs from you. Wouldn't it be awful if the Lord departs from us? We know we sin. We're not perfect. We sin. And isn't that a terrible feeling afterwards? The conviction that sin brings after we fail. We all fail. Before you're saved, you don't care. You may have a little conscience back here, but it doesn't go too far. Once you have a relationship with God, and you know you've done something that you shouldn't have done, you've thought something you shouldn't have thought, you said something you wish you hadn't, you regret it. Isn't that an awful feeling? Just think how he felt right then. So this is going to happen to him rapid fire now. He's in a world made of hurt right now. Hurt locker. The Lord's departed from him. But the Philistines took him and put out his eyes right away. This is the impression is they grabbed him up, put his eyes out right now. They weren't going to have any more of this Samson doing to them. Lost his eyesight right there. He never got those eyes back, guys. Permanent. He never got his eyes back. The Lord came back to him, was gracious in his death, but he never again saw another thing. Just think of that. Just think what was going through his head. You think all these times that his first wife did the same thing to him, and then this woman he's running with, now she's done the same thing to him. You think that stuff wasn't running through his head? I'll bet it was. I bet he was thinking this whole time, man, what is the matter with me? Look what I've done. Now I paid a big price. Put out his eyes and brought him down to Gaza and bound him with fetters of brass, and he did grind in the prison house. So he was grinding them. He would do the ox's work. He'd grind the meal like the oxes. It was big fun for them. Howbeit the hair of his head began to grow again after he was shaven. So you get the impression here, this doesn't take too awful long. We don't know how long it was there, but I get the impression it wasn't very long from these scriptures, and we'll read them. Then the Lord of the Philistines gathered them together to offer the great sacrifice unto Dagon their God, to rejoice. And they said, our God hath delivered Samson and our enemy into our hand. Dagon was, I think, a god with a fish body and a man's head. And when the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, our God hath delivered unto our hands our enemy and the destroyer of our country, which slew many of us. Check this out. So this is even worse. Think about that. Now they're attributing his failure to their God, being greater than Israel's God. Oh, man, well, that must have gone through him like a shot. And it came to pass, and he knew all the while it was him. It came to pass when their hearts were merry that they said, call for Samson that we may make us sport. So they would bring him out when they want to have fun. They'd get to drinking and all come to the Coliseum, and he'd be their entertainment. And they called for Samson out of the prison house, and he made them sport. And they set him between the pillars, and Samson said unto the lad that held him by the hand, so he's blind, this guy brings him out, and they laugh at him. Suffer me that I may feel the pillars whereon the house standeth, that I may lean upon them. Now the house was full of men and women, and all the lords of the Philistines were there, and were upon the roof about 3,000 men and women, and beheld while Samson made sport. And Samson called unto the Lord and said, the Lord God remember me, I pray thee, and strengthen me, I pray thee, only this once, O God, that I may be at once avenged of the Philistines for my 2 eyes. And Samson took hold of the 2 middle pillars upon which the house stood, and on which was borne up, of the one with his right hand, and the other with his left. And Samson said, let me die with the Philistines. And he bowed himself in all his might. And the house fell upon the lords and upon all the people that were therein. So the dead which he slew in his death were more than they which he slew in his life. We don't know exactly how many. We certainly know it was at least 3,000. He collapsed this whole thing. A roof collapsed on everybody. He collapsed this whole thing on all the Philistines. It's a work of God. So if anybody ever even survived that, God snuffed them out. So the dead he slew, then his brethren and all the house of his father came down and took him and brought him up and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the burying place of Manoah his father, and he judged Israel 20 years. So it said earlier in the scripture that he had judged Israel 20 years, and then at the end of his life he judged Israel 20 years. So when they took him, when they put his eyes out, it was 20 years. So the scriptures tend to make, I believe, this happened quickly. I don't know if they even shaved his head even one more time. They thought, well, it's a done deal. It's interesting that it ties in God's connection to him through his hair. It didn't have to be. God could have given him that power whether his hair was growing back or not, but it's an interesting turn of phrase there. Samson's life ended quickly after they put his eyes out. We don't know how long. I get the impression that they didn't shave him at all. They were full of themselves. His hair grew back a little bit. It depends on how quickly your hair grows. Don't know how much hair he had at the time, but he had some hair. And then God mercifully ended his life and brought a victory out of that against the Philistines. Wasted potential. We all have potential, right? We can all run astray, right? We got work to do. Samson had a work to do. That is an example of not to get too full of yourself. You never know. Cock of the walk one day, the next day the feather duster, right? You keep your nose to the grindstone. Once you put your hand to the plow, you can't turn back. Stay humble. Learn the lessons from Samson. Use your skill, whatever gift God gives you. Use it for God. Do the best of your ability. Stay strong. Persevere. I don't know what time it is. Look at that. Almost right on time. Okay, guys. Well, any questions? Anybody else find that absolutely hilarious? Or did you guys ever read that and laugh at that? Am I the only one? I'm a weirdo, I know. I ain't all there and I ain't right. Stuff that should make me sad sometimes make me glad. But I find those that to be hilarious with a tragic ending. All right, no questions. Let's have a prayer. Dear Lord, most precious Heavenly Father, God, we thank you again for your blessings. Thank you for your word of truth, Lord. It enlightens us, Lord, and shows the light of the way we should go. Filled with so many wonderful historical records, Lord, and they're all for our teaching, for our edification, for us to show others, words to live by, words to die by, words to grow by. Just thank you for this wonderful book and all the things that are here. Thank you for these people, Lord, and ask you to bless this church, Lord, and its mission, each person here. We go out and influence those in our sphere of influence, Lord. Be busy about your work. We thank you for these things, and we ask it all in the holy and precious name of Jesus. Amen.